You are Locked On Bulls Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Chicago on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Bulls Postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Joe George here with you as usual. Hit that subscribe button. We're here live after every single Bulls, Bears, Cubs, and Notre Dame game. Fun game for the Bulls tonight. They win 122-106 against the Toronto Raptors. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. So the Bulls win this game 122-106. The Toronto Raptors came in on a 5-game winning streak. Obviously, the Bulls have not been playing their best basketball of recent, but the big men led the way in this game. Nikola, Vucevic, and Jalen Smith in the first half were really outstanding. Patrick Williams continued to have success off the bench, his third straight game with double-digit points since he moved out of the starting lineup. So good improvement again from Patrick Williams. We're going to talk about that first. We're going to talk about Matas Buzelis. It feels like the breakout might be coming. Told Casey Johnson that he feels like he wants to be the best rookie the rest of the year after not making the Rising Stars Challenge. And we'll wrap the show up with the best and worst of this game versus the Raptors. But look, the first half, this is a dominant performance really combined from Nikola Vucevic and Jalen Smith. Vuce comes out very, very strong first quarter. He's got 12 points. Jalen Smith gets the first 7 points of the second quarter, ends up with 10. So at the end of the first half, the Bulls were leading 55-10. Vuce has 14, Jalen Smith has 10, and we saw Patrick Williams again coming off the bench. So they're sticking with it. They're sticking with Pat Williams being the seventh guy in the rotation right now. Matas Buzelis continues to be the sixth man off the bench, followed usually either the same possession or usually like the next possession by Patrick Williams. But Vuce was really good in this game, and Jalen Smith being super aggressive to start the second quarter. And look, Toronto, like 5-game win streak, they played really good defense. It was suffocating the Bulls early in this game, and I wasn't really sure watching it like how they were going to handle it because they were pressing, they were all over you. I mean, this was a team that if you haven't watched a lot of Raptors basketball, like not many of us probably have, I haven't, to be honest, but they impressed me defensively tonight, and the Bulls' response to that was really good, to be honest. Like it was a game where, it looked like early on the turnovers could, probably get away with you a little bit. Like it just felt like the way they were playing that they were going to be able to take advantage of you. But what Vuce was doing and what Jalen Smith did in the first half, it's what led the Bulls to that 5-point lead at the end of the half. It was really mostly those guys. You had Matas Buzelis had a good first half in terms of production. He only had 3 points, but he had 5 rebounds and a block. So he had a really effective first half as well. And look, there were some ugly moments. I mean, there were some ugly turnovers. There was the entry pass from Coby White to Vuce, which was just brutal. There was the one possession, a couple possessions before that where the Raptors were all over the Bulls. Coby White got up a shot that went in, honestly, as the shot clock was expiring, gave the Bulls a 5-point lead. But it felt like early on, like there was just going to be a struggle, a dogfight this entire game. And then the second half, the big guys continued to play really well. Vuce continued to play well, so did Jalen Smith. But that's really where Patrick Williams really took off in this game in the second half. And again, they came out disjointed on defense. Scotty Barnes was pretty much having his way either straight up or in the two-man game with Lonzo Ball. Josh Giddey got an ugly back cut against them. But in the second half, they just kind of started shooting the ball much better. And we saw Patrick Williams and Matas Buzelis play really well. We saw the Dalen Terry dunk, as mentioned here in the chat. The second half was really, they separated quickly from this team, and they played good defense in the second half too. And they talked about it there at the end of the broadcast, if you're listening to it with Stacey King and Adam Amin, that since they've made this change with Patrick Williams, and since the Warriors game, really when they got just smoked by the Warriors bench, they really have Billy Donovan's gone to the bench earlier, and he's just kind of changed his habits from what they had been most of the season. Now, this next part, I don't know if they are this was a message to the NBA and the teams that are rumored to be interested in Lonzo Ball, but I did think it was really interesting that he played the first basically 10 and a half minutes of the first quarter. He checked out for, I think, like 1 or 2 possessions and then came right back in. Was in like some early foul trouble, but that was the most time we had seen Lonzo Ball straight up in a quarter all season. And I would imagine it's the most he's played. Well, I mean, I guess that's the most he's played in a quarter in 3 years. So that was interesting too, as a wrinkle from tonight's game, just to see that, because that's, either something to keep an eye on for the Bulls post the deadline if they can't move him, like the continued, minutes, the lessening of the restriction around Lonzo, but also is like it is a message to a team like the Lakers that are reportedly interested in Lonzo, like, hey, this dude can play. Like he's good to go. He can play 10-minute stretches. He can play large chunks of basketball games. So I thought that was really interesting just to see, how they handled this. And with Billy Donovan too, not just that, but, it was your starters. And only only Patrick Williams and Buzelis played in the first quarter. So it wasn't until the second quarter when Jalen Smith came out and scored all those points right away that he really got into the game. And we didn't see Julian Phillips play in this game. Obviously, THT is dealing with a nagging injury, so he's not out there. But the bench kind of got limited even in garbage time. I mean, the Bulls were blowing the Raptors out, and the starters were still in there at the very end of the game for the most part. So that was, it was an interesting game to see, like, the last couple of games. It just feels like Billy Donovan, something clicked with him to where he was going to have a more open mind to using guys in different roles and keeping them in that, whether that's Buzelis as the sixth man, Patrick Williams off the bench. And you thought that this is a game potentially where, the Raptors have some size and athleticism to where you might not see 4 guards with Vooch be the go-to. I was kind of waiting to see before the game what Casey Johnson and the Bulls were going to tweet out about the starting lineup, and to see it still be these guards shows that no matter what, even maybe post-deadline, that Patrick Williams might continue to just develop into this role, because he was really effective. Again, he has much more command of his game, much more like willingness to shoot the ball. We saw the dunk that he had in this game. He had a really nice bounce pass as well to Matas Buzelis that got blocked. I mean, he's continued to play really strong basketball over these last 3 games, where it's only the 3rd time this season that he's scored over 10 points in 3 straight games. Like, so yeah, he's not getting you 20 points, but he ended up getting you, what did he end up with tonight? He ended up with 11 and 9, and he only, so that's, again, the 9 rebounds, that matters for Patrick Williams, because that's the thing that was going to be the reason why he was no longer a starter, the reason why even when he was a couple times, he was playing, 17 and 19 minutes a game, and Billy Donovan had really seemed like kind of gotten over the Patrick Williams experiment. So this is important for the long-term ramifications of the Bulls a little bit, because I do think that, like, when you challenge a player and you bench them, how they respond is going to tell you, like, where you are at with this player. Like, and just in terms of, like, it's basically a dead contract if he moved to the bench and continued to play the way he was as a starter. You're never trading him. You're never moving him for anything. You can't even probably sell this guy or trade this guy for another bad expiring contract. You're just kind of stuck with him. And the Bulls might be stuck with him anyways, but for at least now, the new role for Patrick Williams is a huge positive for the Bulls. And we will continue to see. We are, when we do a show next Friday, I think we'll have a show next Friday. I think they play next Friday night. That'll be the new look Bulls that, as I die, that'll be the new look Bulls post deadline, assuming that they actually, some of these trades come to fruition between all the rumors that are out there for Lonzo, Vooch, Zach LaVine, of course, and really others, since the report was from Joe Cowley that only Matas Buzelis is the guy that's going to be untouchable. He did not make the Rising Stars game this year. He did make the dunk contest, and he wants to be the best rookie in the NBA the rest of the season. And it feels like a game like tonight, and after his last game, it feels like the Matas Buzelis breakout to what his rookie year ceiling can be might be on the way. We're going to talk about that next and this game from him, because he was phenomenal in tonight's game. So we'll get to the next here in the Locked On Bulls postcast on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now taxes is Now Taxes is matching with TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile apps. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. So Matas Buzelis in this game, in the Bulls 122-106 win over the Raptors. He ends up with 12 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks, 3 of the Bulls, 9 blocks. He was a plus 18 on the night, only 1 foul, which is something to keep an eye on after the last game where he was in foul trouble early on. This is now back-to-back games for Matas Buzelis with double-digit points, and he just did pretty much everything you'd want him to do in this game. That Patrick Williams bounce pass, yes, it was a dunk. I mean, it was a block by the Raptors on him on that dunk attempt, but it was a great cut to the hoop. He looks more confident in this role. We saw multiple times where he's in the corner, he's taking the three. That one that he had where there was a Raptors player absolutely in his face in the third quarter, and that was what gave him that double-digit points on the night. And he hits the three to put the Bulls up 9. I mean, he had no space. And this is, early on, Matas felt like he would only take shots when he was very comfortably open. And that is something that feels like it's changing. He's also not just attacking the rim with the intent to put someone on a poster, because, while it's fun, it's not super effective. Yes, you can get to the foul line and get your free throws there, but sometimes there are other plays to be made. And I do feel like he's just kind of taking a step back from trying to do that on a nightly basis of trying to pick someone and victimize them and put them on Stacey King's poster machine. But that's also a small change we've seen. He really just looks more comfortable, kind of just like Patrick Williams, being the 6th guy off the bench, being in there with veterans, being in there with the starters. It just looks like Matas is much more comfortable in this role. And again, we will see how different this team looks a week from today when we get past the NBA trade deadline. But for now, it's okay, this kid, he can go. I mean, I don't think there's anything. We all don't know what Matas Buzelis' ceiling can be, but you do see the signs in a game like tonight of a guy a young kid who looks like he can be a very good basketball player for the Bulls. I don't know if we'll ever use the superstar words to describe Matas Buzelis, but can he be someone that is in your lineup, can be an effective scorer, a good defender, a good rebounder? Yes, he checks those boxes already. I mean, the 3 blocks that he had in this game, and there's a 4th one that doesn't show up on the block column that it looked like it was a block, but he just did so much, had such great defense that the ball just went straight up in the air and didn't even touch the rim by the Raptors player, and that was just excellent defense from him. So he's really just doing the all-around stuff that you would want to see from the rookie. And I've said this before, so if you're not listening for the first time, I do apologize a little bit. If you're listening for the first time, come on over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button if you're listening on audio. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button as well for me, please. We appreciate you. But my biggest, thing with the Bulls this year was as they fell out of playoff contention or fell deeper and deeper into just being a play-in team or maybe eventually actually into a lottery team, was if you want to get Bulls fans to think more about the future and be excited, a lot of that really does focus around Matas Buzelis. And now seeing him come off the bench as the 6th man does give me a level of excitement watching this team, that no matter what's happening around them, all the trade rumors, the bad basketball, the sometimes really good basketball like we saw tonight, I kind of just want to watch Matas play. And frankly, a lot of these postcast shows, the rest of the year, will probably be focused around him. He will be, because he's really the guy that, as they're saying, is the only guy that's untouchable. He's your only, feels true guaranteed cornerstone piece that you want to build around if you're willing to trade someone like Io or Coby White or Jalen Terry and move on from them supposedly at the trade deadline for the right asking price, of course. So it's not a fully accurate statement to say that they're not cornerstone pieces. But if you're willing to trade them, there's a reason why you're willing to trade those guys. And I might not agree with all of them, but the front office is currently willing to do so, reportedly. So that to me is what's important the rest of the season. Like, if they make the play-in tournament, whatever, we'll do one postcast show before they get sent home. That'll be our playoff postcast experience for a Chicago sports team, hopefully until the Cubs make the playoffs next year. But it's just been a nice adjustment for him, I would say, in the rotation. And as Zach says here in the chat, elite nickname. He didn't say that, but I'm saying elite nickname. Lil Boozy Vert, great nickname for Matas Buzelis. I think we can all get behind that. I think that's one that fans will thoroughly enjoy while he is a member of the Bulls. And look, again, like having a local kid succeed, I know he's not from Chicago exactly per se, but having a kid from Illinois have this success also does, I think, bring like a level of enjoyment around it more for him. And I think, as he's talked about in the past, like a level of pressure as well. I did think it was interesting that during the game too, Casey Johnson had one of his sideline reports, and he said the player he talked to about the trade deadline was Matas Buzelis and got his thoughts on it. And Matas talked about being, kind of sad if these trades do actually come to fruition. He's kind of getting a reality check of what the basketball business is like. But the positive is it's just continued growth and more time for him because, yeah, he's not going to be a plus 18 every night, but it's very realistic that his 26 minutes tonight in a week from today after the deadline are 34, 35 minutes. That even, depending on what they actually were to get back in terms of expiring contracts and versus draft capital and maybe a long-term piece here or there, maybe one they'd be lucky to get. Like, I would expect a much bigger role from Matas Buzelis the rest of the season starting after the NBA trade deadline. And that includes even if they don't do anything. If they are stubborn with their asking prices, I do think that this is a sample size these last couple games of like what the Bulls' intentions will be the rest of the year, that as long as he continues to play good basketball and not end up in Billy Donovan's doghouse, that we'll see Matas Buzelis' role continue to grow with or without a bunch of trades that are going to happen this upcoming trade deadline, just a week from yesterday on Thursday. All right, let's talk about the best and worst moments of the game. A lot of really good ones today. A couple nitpick things that I would say will stand out as worst moments of tonight's game and the Bulls win over the Raptors. We'll do that next, our final segment of the Locked On Bulls postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, best and worst moments of the Bulls win over the Raptors tonight. Let's quickly rapid fire here through, I would say, the worst moments. I think the start of the first half and the second half would kind of encapsulate that on both ends. The offense looked super clunky to start the game. They were struggling with the amount of pressure the Raptors were putting on them. And then the start of the second half, that even though Jalen Smith is balling out for you offensively, Scotty Barnes is kind of having his way with Lonzo Ball. Straight up, in the two-man game that they were running, they were having a hard time. Like, that's a guy that won Rookie of the Year, obviously. Was an All-Star last year. And looks like more like the player that I think all of us kind of thought he could be after has been a down season last year for the Toronto Raptors. So that's really the first one that stuck out for me. That entry pass there in the second quarter where Nikola Vucevic is in the paint and he's battling and he was upset. He thought there should have been a foul, and instead of getting back on defense, he argued with the refs, which is the only pet peeve of mine for Nikola Vucevic, who had another double-double, moving into 13th all-time in terms of center double-doubles as a NBA player, which is incredible for what he's done in his career. Not an all-star, though. I think that could change if there's some players that drop out between today and Friday. Probably LaMelo Ball gets in first in his fake stats that he puts up on a consistent basis. But there was an entry pass from Coby White. It was just super lazy. There was a foul there. They could have called it, but they didn't. And it was just a tough entry pass. And then, Toronto goes down. They score. And again, like you have guys arguing with refs instead of getting back. It's a peeve of mine that the Bulls have been doing. I think it's definitely gotten worse in the last month of the season, where the frustration is boiled over from some of these games. So that's one of the other ones for me. And then really, I think the worst play of the night, honestly, and this is a criticism of Matas Buzelis a little bit and Ayo Dosunmu kind of combo there. There was that play where both Matas Buzelis gets the ball and he passes the ball like a foot to his left to Ayo, because they're both just standing there in the corner. They end up having to take a terrible shot there in that moment. Really just a very disjointed moment, but that's just one of those where it's like, you got to know. Like, it can't be within a foot of a guy on the corner where one Raptors player can guard both of you. Someone's got to cut to the rim or just cut away at the three-point line. Even Matas, like, as soon as he gives up the ball, like, he's just got to leave and give Ayo space. That was an ugly play, but those are nitpicky on a night like this. So good moments of the game. We'll go towards the fourth quarter here. The Patrick Williams dunk on Jakob Poeltl. Oh, boy. The Dalen Terry dunk, both big ones tonight. But the Patrick Williams dunk on Jakob, it gave him his third straight game with double-digit points. The Bulls were then, I think that's right when they got to a 9-0 run, or they were in the middle of it. That 9-0 run put them up 19. Matas Buzelis, the man-in-his-face three that he had that put the Bulls up 9 in the third quarter was really strong moment as well. The block from Matas as well in the second quarter that he had, which then he followed up with, which we know is like a thing that happens in basketball. He gets the block on one end, he runs back down to the other end, he hits a three, and it is a awesome defensive and offensive possession that the Bulls got from the rookie in that moment. That's probably, to me, like the best stretch of basketball. Just those two plays right there, to see the block and then to get back on the other end and hit the three from Matas there. And again, the Jalen Smith, I forgot his name for a second. The Jalen Smith, 7 points, first 7 points of the second quarter, to come out and be, that good and to have 10 points in the second quarter. And Dalen Terry, he had 6 in the second. So the Bulls, second quarter, like they got off to a really strong start, and it was all Dalen Terry, Matas Buzelis, Jalen Smith. Like, they were the thing that were really getting that engine running for the Bulls in this game, and were the big reason why they ended up being the ultimate difference maker. I mean, you look at the stats here from just bench points itself. What do we end up here with tonight? Oh, actually, it's not on here. Just kidding. But fast break points, like the Bulls had more. They were good in the paint tonight. Again, another night where like the Bulls are all over the place. They ended up with, on the night, 39, 45 45 made field goals in this game. 34 assists. I mean, that's one thing the Bulls have done all year. Like, even with the three-point shooting that can come and go for this team at times, and tonight was a good night from the three-point line. Even on the nights where they've struggled, they passed the ball really well. I mean, there was one of the Josh Giddey corner threes that he had in this game where Lonzo Ball took off down the court, and every single guy on the team touched the ball from when it crossed half court, starting with Lonzo, going all the way around the three-point line, ended up in Josh Giddey's hand, and he hit a corner three. So that, again, like they do pass the ball very well. Like, that is the one thing with this new style of basketball that the Bulls have played, is that for the most part, like, yes, they can be reckless with turnovers a lot this season. We obviously know that, but you saw it in a night like tonight where they are a good pass-first team, where like they might take a lot of shots. And I think that's why, still, like we saw one of these, tonight from Coby White, where he pulled up, took a transition three when he could have got to the basket and taken a layup. He bricked it. A huge pet peeve of mine, again, from him this season. Just too much of those that are not going in. But really, besides Coby White, I don't really feel like they're doing a lot of that. I mean, Zach LaVine's not just ripping threes all the time in transition. Obviously, Josh Giddey's not doing things like that when he's out there. Patrick Williams, even when he was a starter, is not doing that. So they do pass the ball really well. And this is where, like, again, like I get the style of basketball that they, going from one of the worst three-point teams to, technically one of the best this season. I know it doesn't always feel like that, but statistically they are one of the better three-point shooting teams in the league this year, and we saw that be effective for them tonight, where just everybody, it felt like, was being used and utilized at some point from the three-point line. I mean, you have nine guys who played in this game tonight. That's what I thought. All 9 guys who played in this game tonight hit at least one three-pointer in the game. Lonzo and Vooch, Giddey all had one. So did Dalen Terry. And then everyone else had at least 2. And Coby White himself was 5 for 8 from the three-point line. Ended up with 25 points. He kind of felt like he had a sneaky 25-point night. A lot of the focus was on what Vooch and Jalen Smith were doing early on and what Patrick Williams and Buzelis did off the bench. But Coby White himself had a good night. And at the end there, as you're really putting Toronto away, he goes back to what he does best, in my opinion, and that's attacking the rim. And we saw a lot of really good moments from him there in the fourth quarter just to put away the Toronto Raptors and get the Bulls back on track after their loss to the Boston Celtics, which was ugly. So good win for the Bulls tonight, just a week away now, less than a week away officially from the trade deadline. So it feels like we could be doing a very different kind of postcast show here in just a handful of days. So if you're listening on audio on the Locked On Bulls audio feed, thank you for checking us out. Appreciate you guys, especially on the weekends, on a Friday night or Saturday, whenever you're listening. Come on over to YouTube. We go live after these games for 30 minutes, right around 30 minutes. So come on over, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button as well. But also, if you want the audio feed, to where you can find these shows and the Locked On Bulls audio of their daily podcast, Locked On Bulls, anywhere you get your podcast, Amazon, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can easily find us. So thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys. The Bulls win 122-106. We will talk to you on Sunday after the Bulls' next game. So for now, peace.